out layers of art materials. You know what I'm saying? Now I'm from the school. I'm from back in the day. You know what I mean, when we used to be doing tagging and paint markers and all that. I went to Milwaukee High School of the Arts. You know what I mean. So he got to bringing in paint markers.
Yes.
And, what you want? You want
shaking them up. Shaking them up.
You want a Sharpie? You want a new Sharpie? You want a blue Sharpie? What you? Are you an artist? I said, oh man, Homer. I said, Homer, give me something used and broken up, man, because I want to say that I'm still from the hood. You know what I mean? Give me the used one. Give me the used one. So we've been having some incredible fun, y'all.
Yeah. I have a question.
That was good, yes.
Just from the viewpoint of a parent who is here and is trying to raise young black men. You said that art saved you.
Right.
How is that? Can you go into that a little bit more?
So my story, before I even, I was born and raised in Milwaukee, but it was a time in my upbringing where I had to go through, in the African culture, they call it the rites of passage, where you go from boyhood to manhood. And that situation was built around that, my mom, I was around that age, where I was 12, 13, maybe even 14. And I was clearly getting on my mother's nerves. And
clearly.
And I was getting into airbrushing and all that, and I was tagging and all that. She had one rule, and the one rule was like, you can do whatever you want, just don't paint on my walls. But of course, we think we slick as kids. So I had my little studio in the basement. Now, don't tell nobody. It's my little tag name.
Don't tell nobody.
Don't tell nobody this. You know what I mean? Don't tweet this. But my tag name, was a little chaos or something. So I tagged my little name in the basement. And, one day go by. She don't come in the basement anyway. 2 days go by, 3 days, a week go by. And I come home from school, and I go up into my room, and I see some luggage. And I'm like, Mom, I said, who moving in? She said, ain't nobody moving in. You moving out. I told you what my #1 rule is. Don't tag on my walls, and you tagged. And she ended up sending me to go live with my dad. During that period, I got off. My mom bought me a flight. I got to Columbus, Ohio, where my dad was living at the time. And I remember my dad and my brother. My brother was living with my dad at the time. And I remember them picking me up from the airport in Columbus, Ohio. And I can remember my brother having this look on his face of like, wait till you see what wait till you get home. Kind of like, you know how little brothers and sisters, they kind of get in your nerves. So I kind of jumped at him a little bit, And we driving through the hood, and we stopped at this house on the corner. It was like this big brick building. And I remember looking over, I'm like, all right, from the outside it looks good. But I had my airbrush, I had my equipment. We go upstairs, and I go to use the bathroom, and I hit the light switch, and no electricity came on. And I remember asking my brother, like, what's up? And he told me, man, we ain't got no electricity. Me, my dad, and my brother lived in an abandoned building for over 2 years. No electricity, no running water, no heat.
Wait. In Ohio?
In Columbus, Ohio, yeah.
You lived for 2 years?
For 2 years.
Through the winter?
Through the winter,
oh.
Yeah. So I brought all of my art materials with me.
Mm-hmm.
And, that was I had a decision to make. Like, I could have just stopped doing my thing and stopped dreaming about being an artist and a creative person. But I used that as a way to be able to get out whatever little frustration that I was kind of like dealing with. And my dad was always, proactive on believing that, son, I asked him that night, I said, Dad, what happened? How did you find, how we now living in this abandoned building? He told me, like, son, this is life. And in life you go through these different things. And even though, because I wrote the book and the story was inside the book, and I started getting calls from my aunts and my people who didn't know that we was dealing with all that. And they looking at it from an aspect of like, man, you went through, and I wish I could have been there to help. But that was my rites of passage. That was the time when I had to go to figure. I could have easily went home to go live with my mom. You know what I mean? But it was a time where, as a young man, that I had to make a decision, and life made the decision. Every young man goes through this, whether it's going to be somebody trying to get you to sell drugs or somebody trying to get you to go left or right, And I had to make a decision, and that decision right there was the first time that I realized that art had the ability not only to feel good, but I also created my business out there on that street corner in front of that abandoned building. That was the first time I paid my first $100 out there on the street corner, airbrushing T-shirts.
I'm glad you said that, because I wanted. That's one of the stories I was going to ask you about.
Yeah.
I really think that was amazing. Like, so your dad was like, "Hey,
Yeah.
Why don't you take your stuff?
Yeah. My dad was like, my little hustle was, in middle school. And I was getting bullied.
Middle school. Middle school.
Right.
Get it together, y'all.
Right.
Get it together. Middle school. Okay, go ahead, Matt. I'm sorry.
So I was like in middle school, and I was, going to one of the rougher schools, and I was getting picked on because in the wintertime we didn't have no heat. So the only way that we could really stay warm is we had a kerosene heater.
Right.
And all of my clothes smelled like kerosene.
Right.
So I'm going to school, and the kids is like, man, you smell like gas. I'm getting talked about and all this other stuff. But the only thing that made me real cool was one of the bullies seeing me drawing. And he like, man, can you draw this poster for my sister? Can you draw? And that was like my little school hustle. You know what I mean? And the school was ending, and I needed a summer hustle. My dad was like, hey, man, we're going to get such and such to run an electrical cord down the street, set up on a street corner. And I remember it was a Tupac, All Eyes on Me was like one of my first airbrush designs. Right. And Homer pointing because I just gave him one of my original Tupac prints. So that Tupac was like one of my. I remember that shirt. That shirt made me a lot of money, and that was like the time where I really realized that I can really sell my art as a young. I was probably like around 14, 15 years old at the time.
Wow.
Do you understand? Like to know these things and learn these things. Excuse me, sir. About artists.